In this video, I'm going to be unpacking the only 7 things needed to optimize your lead generation campaign to guarantee success and to scale and become more efficient. This means providing more SQLs for your sales team and closing more deals, training the algorithm to do that, and ultimately allowing you not to be in the ad account 24/7. So let's dive into these 7 things. Great. So I'm in an ad account right now, and starting with number 1, we are going to follow conversion data. I see a lot of people dive into metrics that don't overall matter. They're looking at a click-through rate difference week over week, and if it's 10% difference, they're freaking out, or they're looking at impression difference or click difference. That matters to some degree, but look high level, diagnose high level, and that's the whole point of this video. Is if we can diagnose high level and follow conversion data, that will steer the overall progress and optimization selection that we have on a 7-day period. So let me show you how to do that. You can look 2 ways. So you can look at this conversions category. Obviously they have the pre-made category and it's fixed into the ad account for everybody. And you can dive into conversions this way. The important thing to note if you're tracking several conversions is to always segment, right? So before we segment, if we were to look at this campaign, from July to October, we've gotten over 3,200 conversions across our campaigns, right? Now, this is good because it can show us, hey, this campaign right here has the most conversion data. It has supposedly the highest ROAS, the lowest cost per conversion besides our branded campaign down here. And so that could be a very helpful thing to look at internally. We can look at cost and go, this one's the most. It's spending the most money, it has the most data. We can diagnose this one first if there's issues on a week over week basis, right? But what I'd actually look at is I'd look at conversion actions or conversion category. And this is just going to ensure that we're actually looking at the right type of conversions, right? So we have purchases down here, people who've actually purchased after becoming a lead, people who made it to be a qualified lead, people who just became a regular marketing qualified lead. They submitted some sort of form on the website, phone calls, etc. So it's important to distinguish how effective are these campaigns, right? When we look at this campaign right here, we have a look at these campaigns, we see if we segment out these conversions that we had a lot of lead forms, we had a lot of phone calls, but more importantly, and what lead generation businesses care about is not a lead, but how qualified are these leads? So we have qualified leads that are tracking, and then how many of these actually led to purchases? This is how we can start to generate close rate per campaign and actually get the most effective campaign by close rate, right? So we're tracking all the way down to a sale. Most lead generation companies are only tracking this, but nothing else. And so they're scaling this, but maybe this is the worst campaign for us to optimize and grow long-term, right? That's why metrics like this and purchase are needed to gain visibility on what's actually working. So going down a bit more, we have a PMAX campaign. A lot of people are against PMAX, but PMAX has gotten us 8,300 or 83 purchases with $235,000 worth of conversion value. This is this is HubSpot data with the conversion values being reported on the sale. So this campaign's massively profitable. Again, this is why it's important to segment by conversions. And on a 7-day period, you can look and see how profitable or what's our direction 14-day. Darn, I'm going to have to blur this out again. You can look on a 14 or 7-day period and start to get a trend going and say, well, how profitable? What's the trend of marketing qualified leads week over week, right? This one's 6 behind. That's 40% lower. This one's 20% higher, right? You can start to really get a picture of the effectiveness of things when you do it this way and when you're segmenting by conversion action. So first things first, segment by conversions, follow your conversion trend week over week. And this will be huge for you in terms of where you're going to spend your time focusing on optimizing. And then ultimately, is there even an issue? If I'm touching things every single week, but I have a trend that's showing that we're actually gaining results, there's no catalyst needed to go and diagnose and make changes in that campaign. Let Google AI do its thing. Cool. Next thing I have is really just diving into the importance of offline conversion tracking. 95% of lead generation businesses I audit do not track offline conversion tracking. What is conversion tracking for lead? Offline conversion tracking for lead generation is exactly this. Typically, lead generation companies are only tracking submitted lead forms and phone calls, but they don't track how many of our lead forms are actually qualified, that our sales team qualified, right? And that we move to a sales qualified lead, an SQL in Salesforce or HubSpot. And so as you can see, this client in the last 30 days, we've had 54 SQLs from HubSpot pushed back to this Google Ads campaign, right? There's a whole other topic in terms of how to set this up. It's not quite hard. There's just a lot of lazy advertisers out there who don't set this up because they don't really care about your bottom line, or maybe their understanding of Google Ads is rudimentary. Either way, this is a very important thing to set up. And this is the only way you actually track, is my campaign profitable, without having to month over month go into HubSpot and look at UTM data to decide if campaigns are like that. It's better to filter this data into Google Ads campaigns. It's one, automated. Two, you're going to allow the algorithm to actually optimize for the things that you care about the most. So these have the highest conversion value attached to them. So Google really is incentivized to optimize for people to become qualified leads and purchases. That's going to stir your algorithm to optimize for the highest intent user for your product or service. This brings me into number 3. If you are optimizing a campaign, let's say, again, in my example, a 7-day period or a 14 over 14-day period, your conversions are down. Most important conversions are down. Your qualified leads, your SQLs, and your purchases are down. Well, what we can start to do is we can look into the search terms report. So we can look in here and we can actually start to filter. And let's go, I set up basic filters. I just go, what is the cost? If the cost was over, let's just do 20 pounds for this client, because that's their currency. And then I would do, and generated conversions are less than 1. Well, I can see now, I can start to diagnose. There's 54 total ones in the last 30 days that have a lot of clicks on them, 636 clicks with under 1 conversion attached to them, right? And you'll see things like 0.5 conversions. That just means there is a partial conversion at some point attributed to that search term, right? So ignore those ones. But still, this is a good way to go through your search terms and decide, hey, are these even qualified terms? Do I want people searching for these? Now, in this case, a lot of these are still very qualified for us. We have a very extensive negative keyword list. And so a lot of the stuff that's already trash doesn't really come in anymore. But adding the negative keyword list is going to, one, ensure that you don't keep getting people searching for things that are not relevant to what you offer, who are going to pop up your ad and potentially click on it and waste your money. Now, if you see data like, I'm looking through all of these right now, none of these are actually unqualified terms. And that will happen. We're working with very large budgets. For the last 30 days, this campaign, I believe, has spent 20, 30,000 euros. And we have 2,000 spent on terms that didn't convert. That will happen. That's not ideal, but it will happen at times. And for this particular context of this client, they had some conversion rate optimization stuff going on their website, and conversion rate did drop on some of the terms that we were once doing well on in the previous 60-day period. So anyways, this is going to be a very, very important section for you to view. Make sure you're negating things. All you would do if you wanted to negate stuff, boom, add as a negative keyword, and you add it to the campaign to make sure that your ad never shows up again for that term. Great. Looking at, this brings me to my next point, the 4th or the 5th thing that you can look for in terms of how do I diagnose, fix, and correct, scale my lead generation Google Ads campaign. And the way you're going to do that is another thing that's often overlooked, is how do you actually manipulate bid strategies to do what you want them to do, right? So we have ours fairly dialed in, but what you'll usually see is people reach a point of diminishing returns. We already know that these campaigns are very profitable for us. So we want to start scaling them. Obviously, we do have a fixed monthly budget in terms of what this business is able to scale to. But what we'll see often is, hey, we have a 500 pound a day budget and we're only spending 300 pounds a day in the last 7 days. That's a big no. That lets me know one of two things. My TCPA goal, my bid cap essentially on this bid strategy, is set too conservatively. And so let's say this was spending 300 pounds. I'll just show you real fast what I would do. If this is spending only 300 pounds, but we have 500 pounds a day assigned to it, What that lets me know is my bid is too aggressive. When your bid is too aggressive, meaning restrictive, it's too low, you're telling Google, hey, I have a target ROAS goal of 8,000%, or I have a TCPA goal that's $10. Google's going to go, we don't feel confident we can get you that conversion goal. We don't feel confident we can meet that. Therefore, your bids in auction are going to be very low in relation to your competition. And therefore, we're not going to show you as often as a result of that. And so that's why you don't spend money overall, right? So all I would do is jack that bid up if that's the case. And I wouldn't, when I say jack it up, I'm not talking 2 or 3x. I'm talking 10 to 20% over a 2-day period to see if day over day the budget is spending. Because what happens is when you actually start to increase this, your budget will spend more fully because again, your bids are going to be a little bit more aggressive. Google's going to put you in the ad auction more because they feel more confident that they can actually get you a cost per lead or a cost per conversion at this amount. Or for TROAS, same thing. They feel that they can get you the target ROAS goal more, it's more achievable than the 8,000% or whatever that you set, right? So that's going to make sure that you're spending your full daily budget and not leave you spinning your wheels and wondering, well, am I just reaching my point of diminishing returns? Is Google broken, etc.? This can also work in your favor in scaling things down and becoming more efficient, right? So reverse that process. If your cost per leads are too high, I had that TCPA at $90. Well, if your guys' actual TCPA goal is $70, you're going to want to start walking this down to 85 to 80 to 75 to 70 on a weekly basis. And the point where you stop spending your full daily budget, if I stop spending 500 pounds a day, I will know that my TCPA is too minimal. And then sure, you've reached a point of diminishing returns, but the more you continue to decrease that TCPA or TROAS goal, you will increase your ROAS on the account or on the campaign. This is likely this is the sixth step and sixth thing I look at when I optimize or when I audit ad accounts initially. This one is a pretty mature account, so it's a little bit of a nuance here and a caveat, but more of an example is when I look everything I just mentioned from before, when I optimize and look at things that way, when I look at conversion data, when I look at the trends, I am simply reallocating budget. And I'll show you actually a real example of this that we did last month. Last month, we had some campaigns that are off right now, right? We have campaigns that spent money and they're off right now. Well, why are they off? This same 846 pounds that was spent, we spent in our PMAX in our main PMAX campaign, and we realized that this campaign only had one conversion with 846 pounds spent on it. This campaign spent 687 pounds. These were really qualified terms that should make sense for us to run for, and that stakeholders wanted us to run for. But when we look at things, we go, well, why are we going to keep investing? And then we actually spent more than this lifetime. But why are we going to keep spending more money on this when we can just reallocate to things that have more growth potential? We haven't reached our point of diminishing returns on these campaigns. So why not just reallocate budget to winners? There's a real big misconception that the more campaigns, the better. Guys, less is more. When you're dealing with Google Ads, we're dealing with an algorithm at the end of the day. And the more data you can feed that algorithm into campaign consolidation, the better, right? It does make sense to segment campaigns based on different AOV of product or service. But for the most part, you're going to want to consolidate your data. And so this is a really easy way to do so. And it just makes sense from a profitability standpoint. And from a logical standpoint, why would I keep spending money on a campaign just because we have another campaign live and it covers this service? No, I want to focus on the campaigns that are most profitable and scale those to a point of diminishing returns before we start to scale past that. Great. Last but not least, well, what do I do if campaigns just suck and every other metric looks fine, but the campaign's just not getting any conversions? This is very likely, and I see this with a lot of software clients that I manage, but really just a lot of lead gen in general. But if that's the case, let's say we had a lot of spend on it, right? One of the first things you want to look for is make sure you have significant spend. We don't want to optimize a campaign if it only has $100 worth of spend on it. That's pointless. So if it has 5 or 10 clicks on it and it spent $100, you can't optimize anything because the data is not reliable. There's nothing meaningful to extract or optimize off of. So you want to make sure, one, you have meaningful data. And then the second thing I always look for is the second thing I go to the search terms, which you've already covered. Am I getting clicks on things that are unqualified? Negate those right away. Build your negative keyword list so you can train Google to optimize for people who are searching for things that are relevant to what you have to offer. Well, if I'm going to the next thing is click-through rate. I always look at this. This is the next big indicator I always look at the ad group level and the keyword level. If I have a very high, because the average click-through rate on a Google Ads campaign is anywhere from 3 to 5%. If I am getting a significantly higher click-through rate than 3 to 5%, what does that tell me? That tells me two things. One, the keywords that I've selected are very relevant to the queries that people are typing in. This means the searches that someone's typing in are very relevant to what my ad copy is mentioning, and therefore it's getting a very high click-through rate. Two, this lets me know that this campaign is likely, my search terms are solved for most likely. Because if I'm searching for blue Adidas sweatpants and a picture of a dress pops up, I'm not going to click on it, right? I'm looking for blue Adidas sweatpants, or I'm looking for a plumber in California and an ad for an HVAC technician pops up. I'm not going to click on it, right? So that lets me know that my search terms are relatively covered for before I even dive in to the search terms and add negative keywords. So that's good. We have sufficient data. The click-through rate's good. There's no real negative keywords that are glaring at me that I need to add. Why are we not converting? Guys, a lot of us forget and we act like Google Ads is just this magic switch that we turn on and it just gets us leads. We have to remember user journey. So if people are clicking, the ad is doing its job. If people are clicking and there's no poor quality searches that are being searched to trigger your ad, the ads are doing their job. The point of a Google ad is to target a very qualified term, or of a search ad at least, is to target a very specific term that's relevant to the service or product that you have to offer to get a click on it. Once the user clicks, again, what do they do next? They go to your website where they have the opportunity to convert, to contact you, or to buy your product. If they're not doing that, that means something is wrong with the website. You actually have to go outside of Google Ads to diagnose that. And so I say that because that's a really, really big theme, is a lot of people are looking for Google Ads to be the silver bullet to solve all their problems. They turn it on and they just start getting leads. You can have the best campaign structure, the best product, all that. If your website is not optimized and making it easy for people to convert, then they won't. And so my 3 quick fixes to fix your website that I see most often people neglect is, one, whenever somebody clicks on their website, it's not relevant to what they searched on. This would be like me, again, searching for blue Adidas sweatpants, and I go to a page that has shoes on it. Like, send me to the page that has the sweatpants. Or if I'm searching for a residential plumber near me and I go to the About Us page. So make sure, one, you're sending them to the most relevant page. 2, make sure they know what you do, where you do it, and why they should choose you. This is the biggest thing people mess up on, is they don't appear credible. If you're not a credible solution for what people have a problem for, they are not going to reach out. So appear credible. Flex badges that have credibility on them. That could be reviews. That could be a specific credential in your vertical that you service. That can be testimonials. That can be years in service. That can be a warranty policy. Anything of that nature is really good to flex. It gives the user peace that they've contacted the right person. The second thing is, most people make it hard for people to convert. So I was actually just on a roofing page, a website, and the call to action was get an estimate. I click on the button and it led me to a spot where I can email the owner. I'm not going to send the owner an email so he can give me a free estimate. I want a lead form as soon as I hit the landing page from the ad, where I can simply fill out, where if it said get a free estimate in 10 minutes or get a fast free estimate, I would fill that out, especially if I seen credibility where they did it and they were a solution to my problem. 100% filling that out. So make it easy. Stop hiding your call to action buttons. Make the form, the reason they want to your website, make that very just in the user's face and appear credible to the user, and you will convert. So that is 7 things. Again, follow the conversion data, make sure you're importing offline conversion tracking, review your search terms to make sure that you're not getting any poor quality traffic to your lead generation campaigns, adjust your bid strategies accordingly, to either spend more and scale campaigns or to gain efficiency on campaigns. Reallocate budgets to the most logical winning campaigns and consolidate budgets and campaign data to feed the algorithm. And lastly, diagnose your broken campaigns outside of Google Ads if necessary, but inside Google Ads if things are broken. Hope this helps. Feel free. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Be making more videos like this, so more to come. Thank you guys so much.